In 1790, the rest of South America was claimed. In 1799, more people started to settle in Canada, so the British let it expand. New cities were built like Sudbury, Thunder Bay, Winnipeg, Saskatoon, Regina, and New Exeter. In 1800, the Qing dynasty declared war on the Russian Tsardom, starting World War -7. They swiftly conquered southeastern Siberia, as nobody lived there. The war ended after that. However, you may be wondering why it was a world war. It was a world war because the Russian Tsardom stretched from Eastern Europe to East Asia, and also because both sides were supported by foreign powers. The Qing dynasty was supported by Tibet, Annam, Korea, Japan, and the Netherlands. The Russians were supported by India, Spain, and the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, in Canada, the British, not wanting a repeat of World War -11, reorganized Canada into several provinces. There was Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Buffalo, and the rest was just a colony named Canada. Around the same time, south of the Canadian border, there was the United States. You're probably wondering about the states of the United States in this timeline, so I'll tell you the ones they had in 1801. Their capital was in Washington, which was not part of any state. The states were New England, New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, Carolina, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Arkansas, Texas, Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, and Oklahoma. In 1803, the Russian Tsardom took over the Baltics. They built the cities of Vilnius, Riga, and Tallinn. In 1804, the Industrial Revolution started in Western Europe. It caused steam power and in some cases, electricity to be used. Copper was a very useful mineral to have in the Industrial Revolution. However, most of Europe at the time used steam power while the United States used electricity. Why? Because one of the founders of the United States, Benjamin Franklin, used a kite and discovered electricity in 1752. A year later, the United States had a population explosion and also had a lot of immigrants coming from Europe, mostly from Germany and Italy, so they created new states like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Dakota, Indiana, Ohio, and Nebraska. In 1812, to combat the United States since they were becoming a growing superpower, the British along with Canada, Twobbular land in Mexico declared war on the United States, starting World War -6. However, France was also on the side of the United States thanks to a man named Napoleon Bonaparte, and he declared war on all of France's neighbors. France quickly took over Spain and Belgium, but the other countries were harder to conquer. By 1813, Spain retook their lands, and around the same time, the United States took the city of Flay and renamed it to Houston. Also, the United States was able to take all of northern Mexico, causing them to surrender. Finally, in 1815, World War -6, also known as the War of 1812, ended. The only country that benefited at all was the United States. In 1816, Mexico rebelled from Spain, granting them independence. This also inspired Pseudo-Asemico to get independence, so they did it later in the year. In 1817, someone found gold in California, starting the gold rush. This caused many settlers to flood to the west coast of the United States, building mining outposts which quickly became cities. There was Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, Sacramento, and Salem. The mining outpost cities became so populous, new states were formed, such as Washington, Oregon, Grizzlyland, and California. In 1819, Twobbular land declared independence. The Mexicans didn't like this, as they already had enough English nations on their border, so they declared war. However, this backfired massively, and Twobbular land won the war. This was known as the Mexican Twobbular Land War. Twobbular land also built some new cities, like Poolsburg and Conehead, however Sapphire was still the capital. In 1821, the British started settling on the west coast of Canada to challenge the American position there. They built the cities of Vancouver, Victoria, and Whistler. In 1824, the Russian Tsardom declared war on Ottomania, starting World War -5. Russia took much of northeast Ottomania, which sparked a rebellion in modern-day Iran, creating Persia. While Ottomania's forces were occupied, the Byzantine Empire was able to take some of western Anatolia. This ended World War -5. In 1827, enough people settled in Burnland in New Zealand to give them their own colonies. The capital of the Burnland colony was Burningport, and the capital of the New Zealand colony was Auckland. With all the new states joining the United States, they needed a new flag, but rather than adding a star for each state, they changed their flag. The stars were replaced by a rifle with a star above it. The star represented the states, and the rifle represented the freedom of the people. In 1830, Spain's South American possessions declared independence, forming Colombador and La Plata. This also inspired Brazil to get independence in 1832. In 1840, people started to settle in between the west and east coast of the United States. New cities were created like Las Vegas, Boise, and Santa Fe. This caused new states to be formed like Nevada, Arizona, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Copperland, and Acacia. A few years before that, in 1835, the United Kingdom and Italy declared war on the Netherlands and France, starting World War -4. Italy quickly took land from France in northern Africa, and the United Kingdom took over all of the Dutch African colonial possessions. Even Germany took a bite out of the Netherlands, but not in Africa, in Europe. Then, World War -4 ended in 1838. In 1841, the Russian Tsardom annexed Eagle King as they were surrounded by Russia. In 1842, a new state joined the United States, named Idaho. This inspired the British to create the colony of British Columbia, encompassing Victoria, Vancouver and Whistler. In 1843, the Norse League had a civil war. One of the rebelling nations was Finland, which was in the eastern part of the Norse League. That's not the only faction. There was also Sweden, Iceland, Greenland, and Norway. The Civil War ended after they all got independence, but this started World War -3 as foreign powers wanted to colonize what was left of the Norse League. Russia was able to colonize Finland, Germany colonized Sweden, the British colonized Greenland and Iceland, and Norway was colonized by Russia. Finally, in 1845, World War -3 ended. Also, after being colonized, Norway discovered and integrated Svalbard. In 1846, India took some land from the Netherlands as they could barely hold on to their Asian colony. After taking the land, India built the city of Anantwario.